this study did, kind of studied 16 major changing of orders in history, and I think it was like something like 13 out of the 16, or some really like 70% to 80% of these studies were shown that, hey, the only way the world regulates is after a major conflict bringing on peace again, and it's about an every 80-year cycle.
Las distracciones y narrativas reinan este mundo tecnológico. Todos tienen una opinión de lo que es la verdad y lo que es mentira. ¿Quién controla el mundo? ¿Los aliens son real? ¿Vivimos en un Matrix? Estas preguntas serán debatidas con José y Daniel G, explorando y descubriendo las verdades de nuestro mundo, nuestras creencias y nuestro reality. Welcome to Cultura Truth Project. Dímelo, mi gente. Welcome back. Es otro. It's another one. What are you doing there, bro? What are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm just vibing right now, dog. You're doing your announcer voice thing.
It's Cultura Truth Project. Welcome to the show, everyone. Jose G, Daniel G.
Que la que hay, mi gente.
I'm just saying, because you just started off. You're like, turning on the camera,
bro. Every time you start,
you got hyped up because of the pre-show, didn't you, bro?
I got hyped up because of the pre-show, and then you came in hard with your announcer voice.
Oh,
and I was like,
bro.
I'm just like over there. I'm like, I'm about to walk through the curtain right now. Show starting. Oh my god, man. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode.
Thank you so much for joining us, guys. I want to say big shout out to all the love we've had this last week. A lot of new subscribers, a lot of new listeners, a lot of new viewers, a lot of new followers, and we can't say anything else but thank you. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias por el apoyo. Te queremos, los amamos. Un gran abrazo, big hug to every single one of you who have been listening to the podcast, watching us on YouTube. We're just extremely grateful. Our last video broke the last record, and our last video did over 2,000 views, so I'm very, very grateful. Shout out to Donut for being on the show, and I know that the podcast and the audio side is growing too, right, bro?
Bro, check this out. Guess what new country is on?
Oh, we got a new country? Did we unlock a new level?
Mother Russia is listening.
Oh shit, no way, bro.
Mother Russia is listening. Okay, Mother Russia is taking account for 22% of our last downloads in the last several weeks, coming in hard. All right, I don't know who's using that VPN. I don't know who in Russia speaks Spanish.
Love you.
Maybe it's Putin. Maybe he's trying to figure out what the U.S. government's doing through our podcast. But either way,
se jodió porque no va a encontrar nada, bro.
No sé. We got Russia, we got Canada, Germany, UK, Netherlands, man. It's we got a lot of Latin America was a little light this week, but having Donut on got a lot of those guys over there who are already kind of skeptical of the government anyway.
Bueno, mi gente. So as always, make sure you guys follow us. Síguenos on YouTube, on Rumble, Cultura Truth Project. Make sure you follow at Gonzalez Media TV on Facebook and on Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on all major platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and leave us a 5-star review. And support the show by joining the Supporters Club on Spreaker for $3 a month. That link is in the description. It's the only place where you can listen to Danny and me just, shoot the shit. And we just talk right before the show, and stuff you won't get on Rumble, some stuff you won't get on YouTube, only on the audio. So join the Supporters Club on Spreaker, $3 a month. Link in the description. Thank you so much.
How does Donut say it?
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button, because $3 is cheaper than a bag of Skittles.
cheaper than a bag of Skittles. Yes, sir. So, bro, what do we got going on, bro? Like, okay, so we originally had scheduled Tommy Truthful to be on the show today. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it for some unforeseen circumstances. But shout out to Tommy Truthful. He'll be on the show very, very soon. But today's gonna be kind of like a freestyle, guys. I don't know what we're gonna be talking about. We're gonna touch up on some of the stuff that's going on in the current events, and we'll just kind of see what kind of crazy ass connections we can make from there, bro. But ¿qué hay, bro?
I mean, bro, there's a lot going on in the world. I mean, first and foremost, talk about how we covered it like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. We were covering WrestleMania and everything that Cody's going through in the WWE. And then it's almost like art is mimicking life or life is mimicking art. I can't tell anymore because my glasses have been pulled back and I don't know how to make sense of the world. But it just feels like the more they pack on to candidate Trump, the more it looks like the motherfucker gonna win. I told you, bro. I told you. I'm like, yo, dude, like I'm like, y'all, somehow the dude, like if it was a wrestling match, you know, he somehow made bail. like the Democrats are like, nah, we got him, and all of a sudden he's like, haha, I know you don't. Now I was looking through the news, you know, as we were getting ready, and now he's fighting every one of the jurors up in New York because apparently they're trying to stack the jury against him, and his lawyers are just like, homie, like, yo, like, we get it, you don't like him, but like,
I mean, that's really biased though, and this is coming from someone that's not a Trump guy. Like you and I have had these conversations behind the camera. I'm not a Trump guy, but you notice when something's kind of like, oh, you know, like where's this, you know, fair due process, right? And when you have these, you know, getting the jury all stacked up against them, that ain't fair, bro.
Wait, here's the thing. I'm not saying political prosecution is if it's a new thing. It's not. It happened in Europe. It's happened in Asia. It's happened across the world. It's happened here. I mean, some might say that the JFK thing was definitely political prosecution. But
what do you sit on that, by the way? What do you sit on the JFK situation? Do you think like it was a magic bullet, more than 3 assassins? Was it Lee Harvey Oswald? Like, where do you sit on that, bro? Because that's like way before us. That's way before us.
Okay, so here's the thing. I live in DFW. I live in Dallas.
I mean, you're in the epicenter where it happened, bro. Dude, that was like a big ritual.
So like 3, 4, I think it was like 5 years ago. I went to there's this yearly holiday parade that goes right through downtown, right by the grassy knoll, and all this. And I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting there, you know, in the crowd, and I see the X on the floor where the president got shot.
Oh shit! And they got an X on the floor?
Yeah, no, it's like a big thing. It's part of the, like, when you take the tour, the JFK tour, they drive you through where he got, like, exactly where he died.
Okay. All right.
So there's like an X on the floor marking it, and then when you look from so if I was in the crowd, so if I'm sitting and I see the X in the middle of the street where the parade is happening, and I'm looking at the X, it's maybe 50 feet, maybe 60 feet in front of me, like in that distance. It's not, I could see it clearly. It's on the floor. Like if I really wanted it to sprint, I could get to there, you know, before some security guard got to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I pan my head up and I see where the grassy knoll is. And if, you know, even with a hunting rifle, it ain't that hard to get that headshot. And I shoot pretty regularly. I do. Like I'm not an expert. I'm not. I mean, I practice, but you don't have to be a grade A marksman to hit that shot. Especially
but there's a moving car in place at the same time.
It don't. I'm telling you, dude, when you sit there and you see the proportions of everything, you see, at least if you're thinking tactically, oh, this is a very makeable shot. Like, I'm not saying it's not a hard shot, but it's not an impossible shot either.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think he was by himself? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think if you are somebody that wants to take out a very important figure in America, right? Especially at the time. And you think about it, okay, we have to make it in public. We need to make a big deal of it. I wouldn't. I would have contingencies. Like I think about it. If it was me planning it, I'd be okay. I have a main shooter, I have a backup shooter, and I have a third. I have at least three people from three different angles. They don't necessarily need to know about each other, but I definitely have an A, B, and C plan because I need
Mm-hmm.
this dude out. You know,
Interesting.
so like well, I do believe it was a conspiracy to murder a sitting United States president. I don't think he did it by himself. I think he didn't know he was by himself. And I also think it was some mob shit. I think it was a mob takeout. I think the mob does a really good job of hiring some fucked up people. At least the CIA does. And if the CIA hired the mob was like, well, we got some guys, so they don't come back to us.
Yeah.
Like I subscribe to the theories like he fucked with the wrong people in power. Does that remind you of anything?
Mm-hmm.
He fucked with the wrong people in power, and the people in power goes, hey, we can't have our hands dirty, but we can't have this going on either.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they got into the darkest parts of the world, and next thing you know.
Well, I mean, didn't JFK also call out the secret societies during one of his speeches? He called out like all of them out, and I don't think that sat well with any of them. So, I mean, and who knows, right? Like, what if the mob is tied to some of these secret societies?
Here's what I think. At least when it comes to the mob, right? Like the Italian mob here in America, that's very well known to have CIA ties.
Mm-hmm.
It's very well known from the time of the prohibition through today. Like they're known like CIA informants, federal informants. Like they're doing business. They're doing the dirty business the government doesn't want to do. That's how they made their money. And I'm not saying that I know these things personally or for firsthand, but like when you think about a lot of the things these people went to jail for, it's like they got away with it for a long time until they pissed off the wrong person.
But then when you're okay, so just like you said, a lot of these people are either military assets, CIA assets, whatever, right? Then you got to talk about the conversation of MK Ultra, because like what if like Lee Harvey Oswald was an MK Ultra asset? What if he was programmed to do that his entire life, and and there was like this phrase, and boom, it turned it on, and that's why he shot, and then after it was done he forgot about it.
That's one of the theories, but it's more on the Russian end of things, right? So the theory is that Lee Harvey Oswald was a Russian agent that was a sleeper cell, and then he got activated.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is kind of like, like the movie Salt. There's a lot of those people. There's always been like, hey, what if Russia activates people and all this, which it's possible. I'm not saying it's not impossible, right?
Yeah. I mean,
But
Americans got to have it too, right?
you have, I mean, wouldn't
I
you?
mean, we're speculating. We're not experts. We're just
No. It's not even speculation, right? So it's like this, Jose. I always like to when I think about big government and how they run, their secret dirty things. And then I think about I always in my head I always try to dumb it down if you're like a bichote or like some hood dude running a trap house, right? I don't want to get caught. So I can't, as the leader, I cannot be seen selling drugs to kids, right? So what do I do? Okay, so I get a couple of teenagers that look like adults that are friends with kids. Then those kids get other kids and they go and distribute the shit. I just collect. Right. So I think about it the same way with the US government. It's just a big scheme. It's a big pyramid scheme where it's like, okay, so the Russians are doing some shady shit and they're being kind of open about it. We can't do that because we have a free society and we have to keep up appearances because we're the good guys. But we still need to make sure that we need to keep appearances of being the good guys while doing the
some shady
dirtiest,
ass shit.
some shady shit.
Yeah.
So they CIA, OSS, they go, hey, we're not going to tell you how to do it, but we're just going to tell you there's this guy that we can't have alive. He's going to be here this time, this day. He goes $10,000. I never talked to you.
But that also kind of fits into moving the masses into a certain way of thinking, right? Because like JFK, and again, I wasn't neither of us were alive back then, right? But I've heard stories from dad, and I've heard stories from my mom and from other people in that era, and you see it in TV programming how the masses were being programmed to think and to act a certain way, and JFK was kind of like bringing that in, and they kind of like took him out because you saw this, big sexual revolution, a lot of civil liberties going on, and they were like, no, this is too much. Let's put Nixon in so he can kind of stop some of that shit going on, right? But it goes back to MK Ultra and kind of like subliminally programming the masses to, for example, when we had the sexual revolution and the women's liberation movement during the 70s, the beginning of birth control, women in jobs, careers.
Don't get me started on birth control. I got a lot of opinions on birth control.
But this was all programmed during that time on TV. And if you look at the TV shows that were happening during that time, right? So when we're talking about MK Ultra, which is literally mind control, what do you think government means, bro? Government, the etymology, when you break down the word government, govern, gobierno, it's to govern over you, and ment is mente. So it's literally mind control. Government means mind control, bro, in the etymology. Ain't that wild, bro?
I mean, yeah, it's not wild. It's not. I mean,
well, it's not wild, but if you don't break it down and you're just saying the word, but if
it's like this, right? Like a lot of people have called the United States, or the empire that is the United States of America, or the republic that is the United States of America, the second coming of the Roman Empire. We're really good at sleight of hand, and I think you can agree, right? Where we tell you this is our values, but at the same time we're stabbing you with that knife while we're telling you we love you. The US government is really, really good at that. I think we have had guests that prove that, with programs like Hearts and Minds, with programs like MK Ultra, with the types of politicians that we've elected over the years, and depending on that era. And when I think about, not so much Kennedy being assassinated, but Johnson taking over, who hated Kennedy, you know what I'm saying? And then Nixon a couple years after that, and the whole Barry Goldwater conservatism leading into the 80s that brought on, Reagan, and whether you like Reagan or not, he was just a symptom of what the machine wanted you to think America was like.
You're absolutely right. And that goes back into the decades of programming of what was on TV, right? He was on TV. He was the person in those people's living rooms during that era, right? All those cowboy shows that you watch, those Western movies that you watch. Who was the main star of it? Ronald Reagan. So Ronald Reagan was already a trusted figure in the eyes of the American people during that time, that it was just so easy for him to kind of slip into that position of power, because he was already a recognized figure, right? Regardless of what your politics are, that's what was the plan. And again, it's not a coincidence that that decade before, while Nixon was in power, he got off of the gold standard, bro. It was all part of it to create that debt type of income, or that debt economy that we have now.
And it's not just the debt economy, is normalizing relations that seemed like a good idea, but you're telling me that the people that were under Nixon, right, like Harry Kissinger, who was the guy to open up and normalizing relations with China, saying this will be good for the American economy, we're down 40 something years later. Look where we're at now. We're facing the biggest economic rival we've ever seen, and we're probably not going to win this one. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know the name of the person who wrote this theory, but the theory goes is when there are two major economic rivals, superpowers, right? The US, China, US, Russia. it will eventually lead to war.
Yeah, it's called the changing world order, and you actually spoke about that a few weeks ago in one of the episodes. We were talking about that as one superpower descends, another one ascends,
and as one descends, right? And this study did, kind of studied 16 major changing of orders in history, and I think it was like something like 13 out of the 16, or some really like 70% to 80% of these studies were shown that, hey, the only way the world regulates is after a major conflict bringing on peace again, and it's about an every 80-year cycle. When you think about how long ago was World War II, bringing on the American prosperity, we're overdue. And I'm not saying the U.S. is out or will lose or anything like that, because I don't know. But I do know the changing of the world order, I think we're in those birth pains of that right now. And the messaging coming from our government, the messaging coming from across the world is saying, hey, China is the strong, big, they're the sexy, new, powerful teenager on the block. You're the aging 40-year-old, and y'all two have to fight for tribal chiefdom. And I don't know who's gonna win, but it's gonna happen.
Yep. I got a video here that perfectly explains the changing world order. This is the one by Ray Dalio that I was talking about. He's a billionaire investor, and he does a really, really great breakdown of what we are exactly just talking about. So it's about 5 minutes. We'll be able to show it because it's a copyright free type of situation, and we are it's a fair use. So we'll show it really quick so you guys get the grasp of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, we'll pause it and we'll comment on it. It's fine.
What's up?
We'll comment on it as we go.
Yeah.
Empires over the last 500 years and the last 3 reserve currencies. It took me through the rise and decline of the Dutch Empire and the guilder, the British Empire and the pound, the rise and early decline in the United States Empire and the dollar, and the decline and rise of the Chinese Empire and its currencies, as well as the rise and decline of the Spanish, German, French, Indian, Japanese, Russian, and Ottoman empires, along with their significant conflicts.
So I want you guys to pay attention if you're watching on the YouTube. Where this data goes back to the 1500s, all right? So, and the major countries that are involved, and this is for the audio, on this graph, we have the U.S., to China, British, Dutch, Spanish, German, French, Indian, Japanese, Russian, Ottoman, and these are all the major wars.
And let me kind of restate that, right? We got U.S., China, Europe, which is now one major country. Europe is one major country due to the EU, right? So they were all independent countries back then. And then the Middle East has always been in this, right? So the Ottoman Empire still has major influence even in today, right? That's what used to be Babylon. That's what is Iraq now, what is Iran, what is Afghanistan. All of that used to be under one government called the Ottoman Empire that was based out of Iran. So this is a very interesting thing. And this is where like I look back in time and I'm like, none of this is new. And it's all a fight over resources that
it's all cyclical, bro.
It's all cyclical. Keep going.
As measured in this chart. To understand China's patterns better, I also studied the rise and fall of Chinese dynasties and their monies back to the year 600. Because looking at all these measures at once can be confusing, I'll focus on the 4 most important ones: the Dutch, British, US, and Chinese. You'll quickly notice the pattern. Now let's simplify the form a bit. As you can see, they transpired in overlapping cycles that lasted about 250 years, with 10 to 20-year transition periods between them. Typically, these transitions have been periods of great conflict because leading powers don't decline without a fight. So how am I measuring an empire's power? In this study, I used 8 metrics. Each country's measure of total power is derived by averaging them together. They are education, inventiveness and technology development, competitiveness in global markets, economic output, share of world trade, military strength, the power of their financial center for capital markets, and the strength of their currency as a reserve currency.
And
Pause
that's an
right
issue. And that's an issue that we're at right now. Shh, quiet. Sorry, my dog's
We have a special guest. Her name is Shelly.
but that's one of the main problems that we're sitting at right now in the United States, is that we're having a bunch of countries starting to de-dollarize from the world currency, which is the US dollar.
Here's the biggest thing. When was the last time the US produced anything? Anything of value?
It's been a long time, bro. I mean,
we went
technology.
We say we produce technology, but no, we outsource that to who? China. Okay, we say we're innovative, but all our innovation was, hate to say it, either imported or sold. It was never really created here, right?
I don't know if I can agree with that, because you have so much development happening at Silicon Valley itself, man. So I mean, you can't tell me that all this innovation with AI, with 4G happened all in China. I mean, you have a lot of it that's happened here.
No, but the infrastructure that supports all those things has been outsourced to countries like Taiwan, China, and name whatever other TPP country that we have some sort of treaty with, so they can make it cheaper, better, or cheaper and less better. These things are happening. Regardless, my point still stands, is we're not making anything here worth sustaining. Where during the rise of our economic power, we were making American cars. If you didn't buy American, who the hell were you, right? We were producing new technologies, let it be the car, the microwave, space exploration, TVs, whatever, right? Blue jeans, name it, right? We're influencing culture. The dollar was strong because it was backed by something substantial like gold or oil. Unfortunately, it was backed by one of the two.
But backed by belief, bro. It's backed by belief. That's really what it is. I mean,
now it's backed by the hopes and dreams of the dying Zennial millennial generation. So
let's keep watching.
Because these powers are measurable, we can see how strong each country is now, was in the past, and whether they're rising or declining. By examining the sequences from many countries, we can see how a typical cycle transpires. And because the wiggles can be confusing, we can simplify it a bit to focus on the pattern of cause-effect relationships that drive the rise and decline of a typical empire. As you can see, better education typically leads to increased innovation and technology development, and with a lag, the establishment of the currency as a reserve currency.
And I think that's also one of the reasons why we see a lot more technology coming out of Asia, China, Japan, Taiwan, because, bro, they're relentless on education. You haven't been seeing that type of relentlessness on education in the United States in a very long time, or ever. I mean, over there, bro, they go like 7 days a week. I could be speculating on that, right? But it's pretty rough.
Yeah, over there. I look at the way, at least culturally, how Asian communities, and I don't just want to say Chinese, I want to say Asian, because it's not just them. Asian communities, the Jewish community, and let's say West African communities, the way they treat education, even here as a micro economy that they are, the way they treat education, how important it is very different than how the overall American model treats it, right? I know I have plenty of Asian friends where it's like, oh, I don't have a choice. I got to become a doctor. like what? It's like, yeah, I would rather be an artist, but I don't have a choice. Like there is no option for me. The option is get educated or die. You know what I'm saying? Like, same thing with like the Nigerians. Like there's so many Nigerians here in DFW. Like all of them are either business owners of some kind, doctors of some kind, pharmacists of some kind. They go into these fields of education to be prosperous, and they don't think about today or tomorrow. They think about 10, 15 years from now, and they're like, no, you have plenty of time to play later. Now it's the time to sacrifice and do these things. Where the American model is like, but I don't feel good.
Let's jump back into this.
Yeah.
You can also see that these forces then declined in a similar order, reinforcing each other's decline. Let's now look at the typical sequence of events going on inside a country that produces these rises and declines. In a nutshell, the big cycle typically begins after a major conflict, often a war, establishes the new leading power and the new world order. Because no one wants to challenge this power, a period of peace and prosperity typically follows. As people get used to this peace and prosperity, they increasingly bet on it continuing. They borrow money to do that, which eventually leads to a financial bubble. The empire's share of trade grows, and when most transactions are conducted in its currency, it becomes a reserve currency, which leads to even more borrowing. At the same time, this increased prosperity distributes wealth unevenly, so the wealth gap typically grows between the rich haves and the poor have-nots.
Sounds familiar, bro?
Dun, dun, dun.
Eventually, the financial bubble bursts, which leads to the printing of money.
What? Printing of money?
Sounds like the Weimar Republic, everybody.
Did he just say the printing of money?
And that's the French flag right there. He didn't even put the American flag on there.
We're still dealing with the Dutch Empire, bro. So
oh yeah.
An increased internal conflict between the rich and the poor, which leads to some form of revolution to redistribute wealth.
What? Red versus blue. It's your fault. No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. It's all programmed from the beginning, bro.
This can happen peacefully or as a civil war. While the empire struggles with this internal conflict, its power diminishes relative to external rival powers on the rise. When a new rising power gets strong enough to compete with the dominant power that is having domestic breakdowns, external conflicts, most typically wars, take place. Out of these internal and external wars come new winners and losers. Then the winners get together to create the new world order, and the cycle begins again.
So that's the changing world order in a nutshell, and that's the short version. Y'all can check it out. I'll put the link in the description.
But my whole thing is, how accurate is that? How accurate is that? And we're seeing it play out in our very eyes.
Very
for
accurate,
for the last what I want to say since 2016, right?
Bro, no, since before that, bro. Since 2008. Since 2008,
okay,
they started using the printing machine, bro.
Let's say 2008 is the kickoff of our 20-year period of confusion and decline. It is scary because since 2008, how much has the world changed for the average American, right? And whether it's programming or just a cycle of life or the rise and fall of the powers, excuse me, I think about it and I'm like, well, what language do I have to learn so I can freaking make money in 10 years?
That's what I thought about coding about 10 years ago. And I was like, fuck this. Dude, that shit is so boring. But shout out to all the coders, because without you guys, we would not have any of these platforms. So we love you guys. But
no, but I'm thinking about, business. I'm not thinking about like technology. I'm thinking it's like, is it going to be Chinese? Is it going to be French? Like what are we looking at? What is going to be the dominant world?
Really hard. It's really hard to kind of pinpoint and pick out like what's going to be like the main thing like in 10 years, right? But what I can tell you, dude, is just kind of like by looking at what Ray Dalio just kind of very simplistically laid out in the changing world order, you can clearly see all those signs are happening right now in real time. with the economy, right? So I think what's going to end up happening, I don't want people, any of the listeners, to feel like, listen, the economy is going to like collapse tomorrow. I don't know that. I don't think like the world reserve currency for the dollar is going to go away anytime soon. That's going to take a long time for that to happen, right?
I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news or negatively. I think being realistically, it's going to happen a lot faster because of the technology.
It could, yes. It could, yes. But what I'm saying that it's not going to go away. That's what I'm saying. Like people are speculating that the dollar is going to go away. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that's just going to be a bag of different currencies that's going to make one world reserve currency. And I think that's where digital currency starts going to come into play.
Digital currency or some sort of like euro deal where the United States can't uphold, they talked about this in the early 2000s. If you remember the Yamato, the talk of the Yamato, where it's like a dollar version of the dollar where you can basically buy and sell goods in any of these listed countries, a lot like the euro, right? I think that's probably going to be a version of that. That's probably going to be the most real world thing. Let it be digital coin or crypto or whatnot. There's going to be a version of that that'll happen on this side of the world.
But dude, that's like, even like when I went to Germany a few years ago before the pandemic, I took cash out so I can get euros, but I really didn't need to have euros on me because when you swipe everything through the credit card, the exchange rate is right there and then. You don't have to worry about it. It does it in real time. So it's almost unnecessary to like swap your money when if you have a card, if you have Apple Pay, boom, you just pay it with that and you're done.
Yeah, I mean, there's, like I said, I think I go back to my original point where it's like maybe it's going to be a digital revolution with the dollar where the crypto is going to be, or crypto coin or some sort of digital coin is going to be the thing of the future. I think we're there. I think we're if we're not already,
we're very close, bro. I think we're very, very close. If you look at what's happening with the banks don't have any liquidity, bro. That's the main issue. If there's no money in the system, how can you, for example, like if you deposit $50,000 in a bank account, the bank is going to take that money and spread it out 9 different ways, right? So if you try to get 25K out of your bank account cash, they ain't going to have that 25K on hand, bro.
Well, they never do. They never have. They never do, right? Like they were always supposed to have I think it was like a 10% of whatever money on hand of what
they were supposed to have 10% fractional reserves, and then after the pandemic, they moved that to 0.
Right. So even if you wanted to pull out $50,000, you have to make an appointment so they can get the cash trucks.
And it'll take several weeks for them to get it. But now if you start adding in the blockchain technology and you're having instant settlements with a fraction of a price that it takes for it to do a transaction, that's very appealing to banks, bro. That's why there's talks about the SWIFT system being replaced.
Well, I don't know. Here's my only, I guess, I don't even want to call it a fear. It's a concern because I mean, at the end of the day, we got to do what we got to do. So whatever changes, we're humans, we adapt, we figure it out. I think the problem is, how is that going to affect the day-to-day of most people? I don't know if it'll affect them right away. I don't think we'll see it. But I think we're starting to with like things like Zelle and Venmo and all that, where it's like
it's a slow process, bro. It's a slow process.
It's like if there's a generation that is primed to go fully digital, is this generation?
Oh yeah.
It's like, when was the last time you carried $20 in cash?
Exactly. And what's going to end up happening, bro, is that they're just going to put that technology underlying without even telling us, without even telling you. They're just be like, hey, there's just going to be an announcement this one day. Be like, hey, by the way, now we offer these services. We can custody your crypto. We offer crypto services. It's part of your bank transactions or part of your bank ecosystem. It's safe now.
So kind of to kind of wrap this back up with the whole JFK and Trump thing that we were talking about earlier, I think that's why they're going after him so hard, because and to kind of talk about predictive programming along with all the things that we're talking about. I was watching an episode of Yellowstone season 5, And there's a scene in one of the episodes where John Dutton, played by Kevin Costner, which by the way does a phenomenal job. He talks about, he was like, I am not progress. If anything, I am the wall in which progress bashes up against. And when you think about it, whether you like Trump or not, Trump is the wall in which progress kind of runs into.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like, hey, yeah, this is the Trump figure. This is the guy who does things. Look, the CIA is listening. They wanted you to get rid of that Cultura Truth Project thing in the back. You know, he's that guy. And I think that's the reason that a lot of the infighting in the US is happening right now, because he's the guy saying, hey, times are changing, but we don't have to change with them. He's saying we're conserving our way of life, to use, the terminology. We're saving the farmers, we're saving the blue collar crowd, we're saving these things, which I think to have a functional, successful society, you do need to have a very strong agricultural and blue collar section of America. But at the same time, bro, progress is going to come whether you like it or not.
Exactly.
Right? When gunpowder was invented, even the samurai had to bend the knee and recognize who their tribal chief was. Okay.
Now, I mean, I think you bring a valid point. You can't stop progress. We see it in music, we see it in technology, we see it in movies and production, we see it in society. If you talk about how there's 5,000 different genders now, okay, if you started spewing that talk 25 years ago, they would have been like, what?
10 years ago? What are you talking about? 10 years ago.
Even that, look at that. 10 years ago, bro. When
I first heard that there were more than two genders, I'm like, what biology book are you
but then you have like these scientists, from academia coming out that gender is a concept, it's a construct, so it's like, so gender is different than sex, so and it's an argument or debate to have, because there's a lot of people that subscribe to that gender is a construct, that that male and female is not the same thing as man, or I don't know, dude. It's so confusing, and it kind of goes back to, I always like to think it was like, well, this is just the devil trying to confuse us, right? The devil just throws out all these different things to even confuse us even more.
I don't think it's confusion. I think it's his playbook from the beginning. Right?
That's exactly what it is. He's causing the confusion,
because like I said earlier in the podcast, the US is the renewed Roman Empire. What does the Roman Empire on its last days, and the US Empire, which seems to be its last days, I don't know yet, we'll have this conversation when the world ends, and we'll podcast about it. What do we have in common with them?
Well, all the men are have less testosterone, are a lot more effeminate. They're not being the head of their families. All right. They're getting drunk off of football, Super Bowl, the big sports. It's kind of like opening up the Coliseum and getting drunk off the wine.
Not just that, bro. Like in the old Roman Empire, in its last days before it was splintered into two major empires, there were men who dressed like women. There was a lot of sexual immorality happening.
Same thing happened to Babylon, right?
Same thing happened to Babylon. Right? Like, people go, oh, transgenderism isn't new. It isn't new per se, but it's a sign of a declining society.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I think it's very hard to explain to people without sounding like you hate them. It's like, dude, I don't care what you do with your personal body. I really don't. Just don't mess with my kids. Don't mess with my family. I love you. I'll pray for you. I'll hang out with you. I'll have a beer with you. I don't have anything personally against you, but it's the overarching ideas. You have to realize that these things, what is transgender theory? What is, LGBTQ rights and all these things? The big problem isn't that they exist. The big problem is, like, this is the sign of a declining society.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when they can get out of that selfish bubble that they're in, it's like, I want to be free to be who I am. Good, be who you are. But understand that you're also perpetuating the downfall of one of the greatest empires to ever see the face of the earth. The fact that the US experiment was so successful for so many years with the style of which it was, whether you like it or not, whether you're a fan of capitalism or not, and you step back and you look and you go, hey, that American experiment of true freedom that was espoused by the Magna Carta, that was attempted in Greece and in Rome, and now these Americans from across the pond, they did it right, and they did the best that they could for so many years, even with their faults. You have to sit there and be like, these guys figured it out. And now that this is happening, these freedoms are happening, this is the decline. And I hate to say it, to quote, I don't know who originally said this, but I know Joe Rogan said this. Hey, good times created some soft men. And these soft men are these group of soft men in today's society are about to experience some hard times. So why do you think I go to the gym so damn much? I'm trying to get to my fittest by the election, because you never know.
Yeah, man. That's why that intermittent fasting been working, bro. I'm down like 35, 40 pounds, bro. I quit smoking. I'm feeling great, getting my getting my health together, bro. Yeah, man. I'm just gotta get ready. If I can't be running if I can't breathe.
Bro, my whole thing is, man, here's my thing. It's not that I'm worried about physical conflict. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be one of those things. It's like, if something were to happen, and I think we come from a military family, and we know the reality of things. You might be too old, but I'm not.
Excuse me, sir.
You've aged out. You've aged out.
What are you talking about, sir? What are you
You've aged out of selection. You've aged out of selective service. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, for that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. For that.
You're an old man for that. Okay. You're an old man for that. But no, that, I still got like 3 years left. So I'm trying to, just in case something pops off in the next year.
What are you, like 33 now? 34?
Yeah.
You're gonna be 34, right?
36. 36 is the final year of selective service.
Oh, 36 is the final year for selective service. That's some crazy shit, right? I remember when I first filled out that shit. That was like in 2099. Is it to get the selective service? Because you have to be 18 or 17 to fill it out.
You have to have graduated high school or be 18. And it's like, I didn't know it was legal requirement, and I know a lot of guys that never did it, which is weird. But it's like legal requirement for citizenship in America. It's like, what are your only duties as an American citizen, as a male American?
Jury duty, right?
That in jury duty. And I remember when Dad did it with me. Like, I remember he flew in from some godforsaken country, because he was still traveling at the time when I was graduating high school. And he goes, make sure you log on online and sign on your selective service. I'm like, what? He was like, yeah, just in case there's a war, you gotta go. And I'm like, what do you mean I gotta go? He was like, you don't have a choice. You got to go. And I'm like, I don't have a choice. He was like, no. And I'm like, anyone they call, you don't say no. Do not be a pussy and run off to Canada.
That's a little exaggerated, because Dad don't got that thick ass accent.
No, he sounds more like a New Yorker when he talks.
I almost wish Dad had an accent like that, because that'd be like, I mean, he was pretty intimidating growing up. But I mean, imagine if, I mean, even though he does do that, I mean, I don't know.
No. Here's the thing:
he doesn't have a thick ass accent like that.
So Papi called up he called up the pharmacy one day to like talk to me real quick, and like the look of fear on people's faces while he's on the phone is like, we're like numb to it. We're just like, it's done, like whatever, right? It's done. He always sounds angry, like he's actually happy right now. It's fine, guys. Right?
Hey, mijo, ¿cómo tú estás? How are you?
And then the lady on the phone hangs up, puts him on hold, and she goes, Daniel, a man named Dariel Gonzalez is on the phone for you. And I'm like, oh, that's my dad. Okay. And before I answered the phone, she was like, are you okay? and I'm like, yeah, no, give me a second. I talked to him, hey, Papi, when you show him, blah, blah, whatever. Yeah, the conversation's over. And she looks at me. She goes, were you beat as a child? And I'm like, I'm Puerto Rican. Wasn't every Puerto Rican child just beat as a child? Like, yeah, like of course I was. Like,
if you didn't have the correazo or the chancletazo, you're not Latino, bro.
no. Here's the thing. What most people don't understand is that Dad didn't really he hit us. He did, but that wasn't the most fucked up thing he ever did.
No, I'm gonna save that for one of the supporters club episodes because we can dive into that one.
We can dive into that, but let's just say, and I will say this: you don't have to hit a child to torture a child legally, and never.
Hey, okay, no, that's gonna. I'm gonna have to.
I'm joking.
I'm gonna have to clip that shit out.
I'm joking.
Get us flagged real quick for that one.
YouTube, YouTube.
You
ever wonder how YouTube is now running our lives and how we say things? Isn't that some weird censorship that the government has like pawned off on a private company?
Yeah, dude, it's crazy because I was watching Alex's Stein show with Donut earlier today, and they had said the V word, the vax word. So he was like, "Oh yeah, we can say that now. We can say that on YouTube." And they're like, "Oh shit." They were like, "Okay." So apparently, there's some keywords that they are a little bit more lenient on than others. Like we can't say. We can say National Socialist. We can say National Socialist, but we can't say the N word, right? So
and we're not talking about talking about the black N word. We're talking about the red N word.
Exactly. To be clear, very clear. But so YouTube's a little weird with their algorithm, but we do pretty good. I don't want to say that we're like all over the place and
no. I think what I love about what we're doing is that we dissect the subjects in a very, very common sense way. I don't think we're sitting here saying, that, we're not Alex Joning this. You know what I'm saying? We're not Alex Joning this. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. That might be a band.
Do you think Alex Jones is like controlled opposition? Like he's a plant? There's a lot of people that think that he is.
I don't know. I've met him before. I don't know.
Yeah, you've met him. What's he like?
I mean, he was polite. I mean,
at least he was courteous and polite.
Yeah, like not like I sat there and like talked to him for 3 hours. I shook his hand. I said, "Hey, man, I'm a fan of your stuff." He was like, "Thank you." He looks like he has high blood pressure for sure.
He's probably taking like what was that? What's the one for high blood pressure? Lisinopril.
Definitely taking 10 milligrams of amlodipine with like some HTCZ on the side, maybe a cholesterol med or two.
Maybe orvastatin, maybe some simvastatin up in there.
Definitely avoids all antidepressants. The dude does not believe in that shit.
Shout out to Alex Jones.
Shout out to Alex Jones. And no disrespect towards him. I don't know. All I know is that here's the thing. When people say these things online, and you've met a lot of these public figures and you've met them and you don't know much about them, but it's like, is he controlled opposition or is he just another human being that is being painted as this? Mm-hmm. Right? Because we can say the same thing about, Ben Shapiro. We can say the same thing about what's that other dude that does a lot of commentary? Louder with Crowder. The guy with Louder with Crowder. All those guys, they can be controlled opposition.
They could be.
Right? They could be
controlled opposition. You could be controlled opposition, bro.
Jose, are you controlled opposition? Did we sign a contract?
I claimed the fifth on that one, bro.
I didn't sign a contract. I know I did not sign a contract. And if I did sign something, I definitely didn't.
I'm definitely not Illuminati confirmed.
I did not apply for the Illuminati.
I turned them down.
The only secret society that I joined that is not a secret society, it's called Jiu-Jitsu, and it's very gay. So occasionally I have somebody's balls on my face, but that goes without saying. It's just part of the ritual that is gay sex. But okay.
Some sex magic, bro.
It's just weird. It's just weird.
I wonder if Aleister Crowley did like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like maybe that's like where kind of like evolved.
No, they called it catch wrestling back in those days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Have you seen old videos of like catch wrestling?
Yeah, dude, it's weird. It's so
gay.
Weird.
They were in underwear.
Yeah, not so different than from now, bro.
No, what's funny is like when I see like old like 20s, 30s like videos of like catch wrestling. it's like they're in underwear and boots. And the entire time I'm like, but why do you have to have the boots on? Like, are you afraid of your feet or something? Like, I understand the Speedos. Like, I understand the Speedos. You know, that was a thing in the early 90s too. You know, Brazilians wear Speedos. It's okay. But like the boots, like, you're kinky, dude.
Would you ever rock a Speedo, bro?
Depends on what part of the world I'm currently in. I'll be honest with you.
All right. So let's say you're in Ibiza, España.
Ibiza? Oh, 100%.
All right, so in Ibiza, you would rock a Speedo. But what about Rio de Janeiro?
Yeah, also in Rio. Also in Rio. Also in Rio.
You got to work on that tan if you're going to go to Rio, though, because you white as fuck, bro.
Not just work on
translucent, homie.
And not just work on my tan. I also need to go to Mexico, get a bunch of supplements, and get juicy if I'm going to go to Brazil.
Get juicy?
Juicy. Nice, bro. You know, but like where I would not rock a Speedo, Australia. Can't rock a Speedo in Australia. No, I don't think so. I think they're too manly in Australia to rock Speedos personally.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Have you ever noticed like how manly men?
Dude, I have some friends in Australia. They're badasses, bro.
Right? Like they're men.
Yeah, I have a friend that lives in Sydney, and then another one that lives where WWE was recently just at last year. So
Perth or whatever.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, Perth. Yeah, Perth. And both of those guys, I met them about 6 or 7 years ago. So shout out to Shannon. Dude, those guys are hilarious, and they are manly, bro. They're like more manly than some of the American guys I know.
They're men, right?
Yeah, bro. They probably wrestle kangaroos and shit out
bro,
there.
It's like another place I would never wear a Speedo, Montana. You know what I'm saying?
Fuck, bro.
Not just that it's cold as fuck. I think a cowboy would like rope me and just drag me across a field and you never see me again.
You're like, hey, hon, I caught another heifer.
I'm trying to tell you. Like, where would you wear a Speedo? Like let's say.
If I was a Speedo man, I mean, I got the body for a Speedo, but I don't know if I'm.
You don't have the body for a Speedo, dog. You're rocking the dad bod like me. Okay?
Nah, I ain't got no dad bod, bro. Okay. But I mean, kind of, but no. But if I would, shit, I'd rock it everywhere, bro. I'd rock it in Miami. I'd rock it in Tampa. I'd rock it here in Orlando. I'd go fucking International Drive and walk in a Speedo, bro.
I will say, if there is a city in America where a Speedo is acceptable, is Miami Beach.
Oh, for sure.
Especially if you're a billionaire with a hot Instagram model on your arm, definitely rocking a Speedo. And yes, she's too young for you.
Yeah, Miami is the only place you can get magical stuff, crazy aliens, portals, and zombies, and a Speedo walkway. So,
but how leathery would your skin be?
See, that's the thing, though. It's like because I've seen some of these like old cats, these OGs that be wearing these Speedos, and their skin be looking like Italian leather that's been aged for 50 years, bro. And it is not good. It's just it's not good. So I don't know if I want that type of leathery skin on me. I mean, I'm pretty good cafe con leche right now, so I'm good right now. But
dude, I'm over here. I can't wait. Where summer's coming, and we have a couple of lake days coming up, and I'm gonna have a huge beach vacation coming up. I'm gonna let the Puerto Ricanness out after the first red burn, and then I'm gonna turn nice and milk colored for the summer. It's gonna be great, nice little tan skin, little Miami boy, gonna be popping up, and people are gonna stop calling me white. But funny story about that. To pivot, me and Alyssa went on a date over the weekend, and she was like, "You're so white," and I'm like, "I'm not white," right? And then we're at this
pretty white, bro.
I am very pale.
You're the whitest. All right, so it's 3 siblings, and you're the whitest one, bro.
I am. This is the Spaniard. This is the colonial. This is
I'm
a colonizer.
Gilipollas.
I'm missing. If I had blue eyes, I'd definitely be a colonizer. But that's not the point. So we're sitting there. We're at this bar, it's a very hood bar. It's like down the street. We're just having a couple of drinks, cheap drink deals. We're there before midnight. We're pretty safe, and there's a bartender, there's 2 bartenders and a waitress, and they're all just kind of gathered. And I'm trying to prove a point. And I go, hey guys, listen, if you can guess where I'm from, I'll tip you an extra $20. because I wanted to prove something to Alyssa. So one of the ladies goes like this, nah, nigga, you white. Sorry, I didn't mean to say the N-word. I apologize to the black listeners.
All right, clipping that.
They just, beep, you're white, right? And then the other two look at me and they're like, nah, he ain't white. One lady goes, you from Guatemala. And I'm like,
Guatemala.
And I'm like,
that's the whitest Guatemalan I've ever heard.
And seen. I'm like, no.
Shout out to Guatemala, though. Shout out to Guatemala.
I'm like, no, but good try. And the other lady goes, you're Dominican. And I got more offended at being called a Dominican than I got being called a Guatemalan. And I'm like, first of all, I'm offended, but you're the closest one. I'm from Puerto Rico. And the lady goes, see, I know my kind. The lady was like purple. You know what I'm saying? She was purple, sweet lady, made fantastic drinks, but she was blurple. And Alyssa looks at me and she was like, how do these people of dark melanin skin know that you're not white? And I just see this white boy. And I'm like, it's because you don't see the ethnicity that lies in my genes.
Uh-huh. Yep. It runs deep. We're 33% black, bro. Don't forget that.
And most of it is below my pants.
Huh. Okay. All right. That's enough. That's enough.
I'm sorry.
Te mandaste, bro. Te mandaste.
Hey. But are we wrong? We are the same. We have the same gene pool.
Sure. All right, guys. We're going to wrap up today's show. We thank you so much.
Shout out to Tommy Truthful for agreeing to be a guest in today's show. We hope everything's okay with you.
He'll be on, bro. He'll be on soon. But shout out to Tommy Truthful. We love you, bro. We'll be having you on the show pretty soon. But shout out to all of y'all for hanging out, for subscribing, for following us. And if you haven't done so yet, make sure you follow us on YouTube, Rumble, at Cultura Truth Project, Gonzalez Media TV, Facebook, and on Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and leave us a 5-star review. Support the show by joining the Supporters Club on Spreaker. $3 a month. Número 3. Cheaper than a bag of Skittles. Shout out to Donut. Link in the description. Make sure you go and sign up to the Supporters Club. You can listen to the pre-show with all the stuff that we do before we.
Oh, this is gonna be fun. These next couple of pre-shows, we're gonna have some fun. We got some good guests coming. So
yes, it's gonna be good. Next week's episode is gonna be awesome. So we appreciate you guys. We love you, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.